Welcome everyone. In this particular presentation, we'll basically fragment this presentation into two segments of transactional leadership and transformational leadership as the case might be. So let us proceed with an overview of our transformational leadership, the TL perspective. We will talk about the model transformational leadership. We'll have the factors that impacts transformational leadership. We'll have a full range of leadership model, the additive model of transformational leadership, and other perspective based on transformational leadership and how does this approach works in real life. So let us begin with the description. Now it's a process. Remember, TL in this particular presentation will be talking about only about transformational leadership until and unless I have said it otherwise. So I will say that when we will shift into the transactional leadership, which is the second half of this particular presentation. Remember, transformational leadership is a process that changes and probably transform an individual or upgrades an individual, if I may say so. It involves an exceptional form of influences that moves the followers to accomplish more than what is usually expected. The core element is all about emotions, it is all about values, it is all about ethics, standards, and the long-term goals. Encompassing approach. The transformational leadership describes a wide range of leadership influences where the followers, leaders are bound together in a transformation process thereby. Yes, we are looking forward to it. So types of leadership defined by Burns in 1978 is all about transactional, focuses on the exchange. Transactional will always be an exchange. There's a barter between A and B that occurs between leaders and the followers as the case might be, whereas pseudo transformational leadership will all about be focusing on the leader's own interest rather than the interest of the followers. But transformational leaders would be all about the exchange between leaders and the follower. Pseudo will be there is more about self-interest and less about concern from others. This is where the transformational leadership is all about it. Remember, process of engaging with others to create a connection that increases morality, motivation, both for the leaders and the follower. So they get benefited, both gets a benefited. Remember, in pseudo transformational, it is only on the leader's own interest that we are focusing around it. So two types of leaders defined by in 1978 by Burns. The transactional, which is all about the exchanges that takes place or that happens between a leader and the follower. Note new taxes, votes, turn in assignment is equal to grades, surpass goals, promotion. So we are looking for the outcome. So what are the things if there is a leader who says there are no new taxes, the public is going to give them a vote. We will talk about turn in assignments. The teacher is going to give you the good grades if you give the assignments. If you surpass the goal, probably there would be incentive, there would be promotions in their offices. So there is an exchange dimension that is so common that you can actually see it, visualize it, and probably experience it in all walks of life. Pseudo transformational is, on the other hand, is based only on the leader's own interest rather than on the interest of the followers. They did not care anything about the other people concerned. They are more of self-obsessed person. The leaders are transforming, but in a negative way. They are self-consuming and exploiting power altogether, and that is what we will be talking around it. This is what should be the understanding every now and then. So self-consuming, exploiting, and oriented with wrapped moral values. Wrapped means they are all about themselves. So include leaders like Adolf Hitler or Saddam Hussein per se. We'll talk about the four experimental studies, which is model of pseudo transformational leadership. They are self-serving. They because this is only they are only concerned about their luxuries, their objectives. They are unwilling to encourage independent, thoughtful in the followers, exhibit little general caring for others, use inspirational and appeal to manipulate followers for his or probably for her own need, as the case might be. Leaders is attentive to the needs and the motive of the follower and tries to help the follower to reach their fullest and optimum potential. And that is what transformational leaders is all about it. There was this gentleman called Mohandas Gandhi, raised the hopes and the demands of the million of his people. In the process was a changed person in himself. Mohandas Gandhi was related to the country called India's independence. On the other hand, Brian White raised people awareness about the AIDS, and as a result, if you it has changed his character from being a pandemic to a well understanding and sensitizing people about what went wrong or what or how it could be handled as for this particular process disease is concerned. Remember, transformational leaders are mostly into engaging or creating connections, motivating and morality both for the leaders and the followers, as the case might be. Let us understand the charisma of transformational leadership. The charisma is a so special personality characteristic that gives a person a superhuman, a probably exceptional power and is reserved for a few, and is of divine origin, results in a person being treated as a leader. Mentioned in the Weber in 1947, it is the personal characteristic. It is the way the person conduct himself or herself. It is the knowledge of the skills that the person exhibit, which probably viewed from the eyes of the followers are divine in origin, because they are always right probably, and that is what the charisma is all about. It charismatic leadership theory, as per as House in 1976 said, charismatic leaders are act in a particular fashion that has specific characteristic effect on the people, and this is what we are looking for it. Remember, in House 1976 says the personal characteristics and the behaviors and the effect of the follower. A personal characteristic of the leader being dominate, there is a behavior called strong set role models. Absolutely. Effects on the followers is trusting in the leader's ideology. We have beliefs similar between the leaders and the followers. The desire to influence is the self-confidence and the strong moral characters. Now, these might be the personal characters of individual leaders. They might be dominant. They might have a desire to influence. They are they are the epitome of confidence when they conduct themselves in the public life. They show a good integrity in character as in the moral values are concerned. Their behaviors, a strong role model, shows a competence, articulate goals, communicates high expectations, expresses confidence, arouses motives, as the case might be. We are talking of effects on the follower, trust in leaders ideology, belief similarity between the leaders and the followers, and unquestioning acceptance, affections towards the leaders, obediences, identification of the leaders, emotional involvement, and heightened goals, increased confidence, as the case might be, is what we are looking forward. Let us come forward with the theory of charismatic leadership. Shamir House and authors in 1993 later studies shows that charismatic leadership can actually transform the followers' self concepts, tries to link and identify the followers to a collective identity of the organization. So there is a sense of camaraderie that comes around it. There's a sense of character that a group of people will be displaying, and that is what the organization is all supposed to be known as. Forge this link by emphasizing intrinsic reward and de-emphasizing extrinsic reward, as in the money, as in the incentive, as in anything that is extrinsic. And what with the intrinsic, the sense of belonging, sense of loyalty, sense of pride that comes around it. Thoughtful process, the leaders expresses high expectation for the followers, help follower gain sense of confidence and self-efficacy thereby. So models of transformational leaders, expanded and refined versions of work done by Burns and House, it included more attention to the follower rather than the leader's need. Suggested transformational leaders should apply the outcome which are not positive. They describe transactional and transformational leaders as one mode of continuum that keeps on happening. It is they keep on shifting from transformational to transactional and transactional to transformational and vice versa again and again. Extended housework, where let's say what was done by houses gave more attention to the emotional requirement, to the origin of charisma. Suggested charisma is necessary but probably not sufficient condition for transformational leadership. Did I say about the continuum relationships? That is what which I've been trying to from transformational to transactional, from transactional to laser, so that they becomes autonomy is becomes a priority. So transformational leaders motivate followers beyond the expected, raising consciousness about the values, importance of a specific and idealized goal, transcending self-interested for the greater good of the team or the organization, addressing the higher levels thereby. We are talking about leadership factors. Factor one is about idealized influences, charisma. Factor two is inspirational motivation. Factor three is intellectual stimulation. Factor four is of individualized consideration. Remember, there are four factors which I've considered under transformational leadership, but only two in the transactional leadership. As in the factor five, the contingent reward, constructive transactions. Factor six is management by exception, as the case might be, and active and passive corrective transaction. The laser sphere would have only one factor, and that is what laser sphere is non-transactional. It is basically giving a sense of autonomy for the individual to work on their own, and that is what leadership practice is all about. It right from transformational to transactional to a laser sphere leadership. This is what we have been showed to you as what are the very effective sources and what are the frequency that comes around it. If you look by it, you will have management by exceptions, which is active in nature, which is passive in nature. We are talking about the contingent rewards that comes around it. This is what we are talking. So we begin with the four eyes. Then we have the contingent reward or transactional leadership, which is becomes effective and active out here. Management by exceptions on an active basis, coaching them completely, and by passive, wherein you are giving a mentoring effect, probably navigating the thought process and letting them grow as an own or as a person and a principle as a person as a principle that goes around it. So this was been sourced from Bass and Avalo, which stated in improving organizational effectiveness through transformational leadership. This particular book has wonderful insights about the full range of leadership model thereby. So let us understand what are the transformational four eyes. Transformational four eyes are idealized influences, inspirational motivation in the first two things that comes around it. We'll talk about acting as strong role model where you are idealized, where people look up to you. There's a high standard of ethics and morality plays into it, and making other people want to follow, and people, the followers, the employee will be mimicking you and some, so they are putting you on a higher pedestal. Inspirational motivations would be about communications, about high expectation, inspiring people to commit, to engage in the shared vision, using symbol, emotional appeals to focus on the group member to achieve more than what has been done. These are the two eyes of idealized influence and influential motivation. Let us come to the next part of intellectual simulation, stimulating people to be creative and their innovative, individualized consideration, the fourth eye. So we have the intellectual stimulation is probably sensitizing people, sensitizing followers to understand what is the right thing to go around it, challenging their own beliefs and asking them or making an effort to for the followers to think out of the box, supporting followers try new approaches, developing innovative ways of dealing with organizational issues. Let us talk about individualized consideration, listening carefully to the requirements of the followers. We're talking about acting as a coaches to assist the followers to becoming fully actualized or fully realize their potential, what they can achieve, helping followers grow through the personal changes, showing optimism, showing that the employees can be more engaged and gainfully engaged at time. So we have now comes the transactional leadership. Till now I was talking only about the four eyes about transformational leadership. Now slowly and steadily I'm moving towards transactional leadership, wherein there is an exchange between leaders and followers, wherein the transactional leadership benefits both the leaders and both the followers at the same time. It is all about contingent reward, the exchange process between the followers and the leaders, which followers is exchanged for a specific for the effort you get certain rewards around it. Management by exception is leadership that involves corrective criticism, negative feedback, and negative reinforcement if required. It's the carrot and stick approach that needs to be understood. The active formation is watchers actually follow closely and probably identify mistakes, rule violation, and accordingly advise the follower what can have been done, what are the corrective steps that needs to be taken, and so on and so forth. Passive on the other side, on the other hand, would intervene only and as on when on basis the standards had not been met. Probably problem of arising, you let the person go with the flow, let them see, go with the followers. If they actually meet an impediment or they face some difficulties, allow them to solve the problem, because once if they solve it on their own, they will learn and they get enriched with an experiences which cannot be replicated in any other fashion. So that is what is passive thing. But in case they get stuck, probably you help them come across with it. The non-leadership factors would be the laissez-faire, the absence of leadership. This is where the employees has complete autonomy, has the full responsibility and the trust of the leaders. It's a hands-off approach, letting things right on their own. Refer to the leader who abdicates responsibility, delays decision, gives no feedback at all. This is what we are looking into it. Make little effort to help followers satisfy their requirement as on when on basis. So let us understand transformational leadership and transactional leadership. How do they go around it? Remember the four I's of idealized influence: inspirational motivation, intellectual simulation, and individualized consideration. These are what we talk about transformational leadership. On this, if we can have the mixture of transactional leadership, as in contingent reward and management by exception, be it both active or passive, we will come with an expected outcome both from transformational and transactional. And this expected outcome may be beyond your expectation, performances which might surprise you. This particular thing, the particular flowchart has been drawn from the implication of transactional and transformational leadership for an individual, thereby way back published in 1990s on a journals which is aptly titled by Research in Organizational Change and Development, written by B.M. Bass and B.J. Avalio, as the case might be. So Benis and Nanus in 1985 said four leadership strategies in transforming organization. They should have a clear vision of the organization, future state. They should have somewhere down the corner the transformational leadership, social architect of the organization. They can infuse a sense of semblance among the employees. I create a sense of trust and honesty by making their position clear, creatively deploy themselves through a positive self-regard, as the case might be. Kuzos and Posners in 1987-2002 insisted upon the five fundamental practices: model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart, as the case might be. This is what we are looking forward to. We need to understand modeling the ways as a fundamental thing, where we need to understand what is the vision and can we actually empower the employees to realize their vision, make it a reality, to challenge the process. We need to empower them, we need to encourage them, we need to enable others to act accordingly. So, how does transformational leadership approach work? Let us proceed with the understand what the focus of transformational leadership: strength, criticism, and application, before we wind up this presentation. So, let us begin with the focus of transformational leadership, as the case might be. Yes, the overall scope is where the leaders can initiate, develop, and probably implement the significant changes in the organization. So they can not only initiate, they can not only understand, they can not only visualize the end objective and probably ensure that there's a complete implementation of the significant changes in the organization. So yes, the focus is on transformational leaders. They will empower and nurture followers. They will empower the employees. They will empower the followers. They will ensure that the followers get themselves upgraded in terms of knowledge, upskilled in terms of their skills, ability. They will stimulate the change by becoming a strong role model in themselves for the follower. They will create a vision. They will make sure that vision is properly understood by their followers. Transactional leaders requires leaders to become socially architect. They will build trust and foster collaboration out there. Strengths. What are the strengths? We are talking about broadly researched. Transactional leaders will be widely researched, includes an immense body of qualitative research that comes around it. They have an intuitive appeal, as because people get attracted to transformational leadership because they see a sense in them, they see a logic in them, they see getting themselves upgraded with them. So we are talking about the process focused. Transactional leaders are process oriented between the followers and the leaders themselves. They're expansive in the leadership view. They provide a broader understanding of leadership and argument that other leadership model falters. Absolutely, yes. They emphasizes on the follower. They are not leader centric but they are follower centric. They ensure that their values, their needs are not being compromised in any cases, and their effectiveness. Probably the evidences support the transactional leadership as an effective ways of leadership. So these are the strengths. So what should be the criticism thereby? Remember, there is a lack in conceptual clarity. Dimensions are not clearly established. Parameters of transactional leadership overlap with similar conceptualization of a host of other leadership theories. Measurement is being very questioned. What we are talking about in terms of the MLQ, the multi-level questionnaire, not been actually been fully established. We are talking about transformational factors that are basically very commonly available to the transformational model. It's not unique in any fashion. Transactional leadership is all about leadership, all about a personal traits or predisposition than a behavior that can be taught. So it is all which is by inborn, ingrained, the thought process, the value that needs to be curated time and again. But behavior would have been one thing which can be easily be learned, easily be mimicked, easily be taught. So no causal link between transformational leaders and the changes in the followers of an organization. Transactional leaders are elitist. They are anti-democratic, suffers from heroic leadership biases, and has the potential to be abused by. With this, we come to the application part, the very crux of this presentation, because it provides the general way of thinking about leadership that stresses ideals, inspiration, innovations, and individual concern. They can be taught at individual levels, and to all person at individual levels, where you are looking for camaraderie, you are building, trying to build a team for yourself, is positively impacting on the performances of the organization. There is what we can be looking into it as a tool for recruitment, as a tool for selection, for promotions, for training and development. Transformational leadership plays a major role thereby, can be used to improve team development, decision-making groups, quality initiative, and organization. MLQ and Sosik Jung 2010 stated the leadership can target areas of leadership improvement with the help of transformational leadership. With this words, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you once again for watching the video till the very end of it. I am sure you might have been able to differentiate what is transformational leadership, what and how does it lead to transactional leadership. And in both, if we have this continuum of both, it can actually lead to lesser frail leadership styles altogether. Thank you once again.